So this is the fourth in the series of provider and course staff support videos. So today we're going to be looking at writing a candidate assessment report and conducting reassessments. We're particularly looking at candidates who have been deferred and failed. The points that I'd like to look at today, first of all, is to look at the provider and course staff area and where you can find the resources there, what potential outcomes there can be at an assessment, how you would go about writing assessment reports in the case of a defer or fail. So firstly, we'd look at the first aid only deferral reports, and then we'll look at the full defer or fail reports. And then we'll look at how a reassessment is conducted. So first of all, we have our provider and course staff areas. So we have Mountain Training Cymru and Mountain Training England provider and course staff areas. The easiest way to get to these is from the mountain-training.org homepage, add a / and either Cymru or England will take you to the relevant provider and course staff area and have a quick read through of the advice that's given there. So I'm going to go through a lot of that information with you now as well. So if I take you to one of these provider and course staff areas now. So here's the one for England. So if you are wanting to look at how to write a course report and particularly how to write the defer or fail report, it can be found under the CMS and course reporting tab. So if you scroll down, you will be able to see here, writing defer and fail reports for a leadership awards scheme. So first of all, I'd like to speak about the possible outcomes of an assessment course. There are a number of possible outcomes on assessment courses, but the three we're going to focus on here are going to be the defer, the first aid only deferral, and the fail. So if the candidate has passed their course, they won't need an additional assessment report. However, any candidate who receives a defer or fail result will need an additional report to support them when they return for reassessment. So the first one to look at, I'm actually going to look at the first aid only deferral. So with this one, please do not use this result if the candidate has been deferred for a lack of competency in any other area of the syllabus. This is purely for candidates who have yet to attend a first aid course or to present a first aid certificate to you at the time of the assessment. So other than the first aid deferral, the other two results that you may be looking at are a defer or a fail. So if the candidate has been generally performing well, they've shown the necessary experience and attributes, but were not completely proficient or haven't attained certain aspects of the syllabus or have shown a lack of experience, then you would be looking at a deferral and you would be writing a report for that candidate for them to return for what could be a partial reassessment. The other results that could be used is your fail. So this would be used if the candidate's performance has been generally weak or the necessary experience and attributes have not been shown. So in this case, the candidate would be coming back for a complete assessment course when they come back for reassessment. So if you're at all unsure whether you should be giving a fail or a deferral result, have a look at the definitions of each. And if you're still unclear, please do not hesitate to get hold of the relevant technical officer. So I'm just going to show you quickly the text that will come up on an assessment report if it's a first aid only deferral is auto-generated for you when you choose the result for defer first aid only. So once you've chosen that result, there's nothing else that you will need to do with regards to an additional course report. This information is what the candidate will receive and they will know how to progress using this. So just to show you what this looks like on the system, I've created a Lowland Leader assessment and I'm starting to write the actual course reports. So the section I wanted to show you is the results section. So under the results page, I can now choose the relevant results for the candidates. So I'm going to say that one of the candidates has been deferred for their first aid only. So as I mentioned earlier, this will autofill the assessment report for you. So the box that you would normally click here, the view comments, there's no need to write anything here. However, if the candidate has been deferred or failed, so we'll say that Ivana has been deferred, we now need to be able to complete an assessment report for this candidate to be able to support them and the future provider in their reassessments. So if you click on the View Comments box, the form will open. And as you can see, there are 3 sections to it. So the first is the candidate performance. You then have, before further assessment, it's recommended that experience is developed as follows. And then finally, you have the recommendations that reassessment takes the following form. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint presentation and we're going to go through each of these in a little bit more detail. So when it comes to writing a defer or a fail report, it's very important that all relevant information is included to support the deferred or failed candidates, and that the assessor who conducts the subsequent reassessment will be able to do so from the information that you've given them. And it is worth mentioning that poor course reporting is commonly the reason for a complaint or an appeal from a candidate. So when structuring the course report, please do think about the following points. So first of all, write the report in the third person. Please do use the candidate's name as opposed to you or the candidate. It's a lot more personal. Consider our definition of the defer or fail before you write the reports. So I've just been through them briefly. You can also find the details in provider and course staff area. And when you're writing the course report, please do start with a positive. Particularly if a candidate has done well in a particular area, it's very supportive if you're able to highlight this. When you write the course report, please do keep it factual and evidence throughout, and use simple, clear terminology. So the defer or fail report is structured in 3 parts. So the first part is the candidate performance. So this is the point at which you're able to talk about how the candidate has done, the evidence that you've seen, and the relevant syllabus points that have been identified. So here we have section 1 of an assessment report. So the candidate performance for a candidate called Danny on a lone leader. So Danny has performed well and demonstrated competence in many syllabus areas. His environmental knowledge was particularly good. Unfortunately, however, he was unable to demonstrate competence in the following. So section 2 of the syllabus, walking skills, part C, identify potential hazards and manage risk. So Danny was unable to consistently identify key hazards, explain how they may pose a risk to the groups and how he might effectively manage them. For example, he was unaware of the significance of the slippery broken slabs close to the Hereford Canal towpath and exposed steep ground below the disused train track at the grid point given. So section 4 of the syllabus, the basic map work, part J, identify position on the map. Danny struggled to relate the ground to the map to identify his position on a number of occasions, for example, Crossfoxes Junction and the path junction at grid point given. So here you can see that a lot of the points that were mentioned before have been used. So we've used his name, we've used a positive to begin with, we've identified where he's been strong, and then we've outlined the points that need additional consideration. So the reference has been given to the syllabus, a description of how he hasn't quite met these points has been given with examples. And that's the case for both of the syllabus points identified. So the second section of the assessment report is an action plan for the candidate on how they can progress on the points that you've highlighted in the first section. So this is your opinion regarding an appropriate action plan. So you may here want to highlight the points that you feel that they can improve in, and you may give suggestions on how they can do this. So in the provider and course staff area, there is a little bit more information. There's a further example of this. So I'm just going to quickly take you there. So I've just quickly come to the Mountain Training England provider and course staff area. And in both England and Cymru's provider and course staff area, you've got CMS and course reporting. And if you scroll down to writing, defer and fail reports, you can see a lot of the information I've already spoken about. And here you can see there's a slightly more detailed example of the sort of thing that you may put into this box. Now this, again, as I've said before, is your opinion on how a candidate could progress and the action plan that they may want to work on. There are a lot of resources in the provider and course staff area that may support you in creating an action plan with your candidates. So feel free to use those resources as you see fit. So the third and final section of the course report is your recommendation for how a reassessment should take place. So this is a recommendation. And if we use the example here, so it's recommended that Danny be reassessed for 6 hours minimum in lowland and leader terrain. During this time, Danny should be given the opportunity to demonstrate his awareness of key hazards and how he may manage them effectively as a lowland leader. It then references the syllabus point very clearly, and there may be an advantage to using mock students to support the reassessments. During this time, Danny should also be given the opportunity to demonstrate he is able to relocate effectively and efficiently on a variety of commonly used maps. And again, it gives you the syllabus reference. So this is a nice, clear demonstration of how long the reassessment could take, the correct terrain for that reassessment, and the syllabus points that need to be addressed. So as the provider who picks up this assessment report and is trying to come up with ideas for how to conduct the reassessment, all of the information that they need should be here. You have to be confident that your assessment report has enough information for any other provider to be able to pick it up and to be able to conduct an effective reassessment for this candidate. So moving on to the reassessments. So practical reassessments cannot take place within 3 months of the initial assessment, and this allows sufficient time for the candidate to practice and to prepare for their reassessment. So all deferral reassessments must be then completed within 5 years. So should it be necessary, candidates may undertake 2 reassessments after a deferral result. So subsequently, if they're still unsuccessful, they will need to go back and to do a full assessment. So reassessments, they are reported in the same way as a standard assessment. So when you have a candidate come to you for a reassessment, you would create a course, and once the candidate has been booked onto the course on CMS, you'll be able to see their deferral report through the My Candidates tab. And you can download it from there, and then you can use that to decide on the best course of action for reassessing that candidate. So once the course has been completed and you're writing the course report, course directors must comment in confidential comments to point out that it is a reassessment. The directors should then comment on the deferral elements that have been assessed when they're completing this course report. So there we have an overview of the assessment reports that are generated when a candidate receives a result of defer first aid only, or fail, as well as how to do the administration for a reassessment. If you have any doubts on any of this, first port of call would be your provider and course staff area. If you still have any further questions, please do get in touch with your technical officer, and they'll be more than happy to support you through the process of writing these reports. So I hope this resource has been of use to you, and if you have any questions, please do get in touch. Thank you very much.